Okay, here we are. Windy day. Mic is in me, and gonna do a little ride. See how well this works. It's gonna be very windy, I think, today, but we'll see. Big wind. Okay, so this is going to be try one with the new GoPro Black Hero 7 with the mic setup. This will be my first time ever doing a setup this way. I'm going to do a little ride and see how well we can do this. This will be try number one at doing this year. I've wanted to do some motovlogging, but haven't been able to get it set up right. So, I'll give you a little bit of a background on my riding history. First time out. This will be a good subject. And I started riding back in high school. I got my first bike. It was a Honda 400. Had it for a little while. My dad used to ride Gold Wings, and then he found that bike for me, and I started riding a little bit, and then I went into service. Didn't ride a lot while I was in the service until the end. About the last year I was in, I got a Yamaha Seika 2 and had that bike. Rode it all around after I got out of the service for about 2 or 3 years. I was doing a job about an hour and a half away, and I didn't like how that bike was set up for that. So I wound up getting a Kawasaki 1000. Had the big fairing on it, had saddlebags, hard saddlebags, and had a tail bag, but it leaked oil. So it was not the most ideal situation of a bike, but I rode a lot while we lived in Florida. I wound up where I was working in St. Augustine. I had to ride about an hour and a half to work. We were living in South Daytona, Florida. I was riding to work in Daytona, I was riding to work in St. Augustine, living in Daytona, and I had to, it was the winter time riding on that bike, so it wasn't the greatest. So I wound up getting a vehicle and drove to work. And then you ride the bike that much till summer came around, well, till spring came around, and then I started riding a little more again. And spring down there time frame is, February time frame when bike week started. So we rode around bike week. Everybody told me that bike was a rice burner, shouldn't be riding that bike at bike week and all this kind of crap. Had guys that I worked with that were Harley riders, and they told me I needed to get a real bike. So I had an opportunity to buy a Sportster 883. Guy told me that was a girl's bike, so I wound up not getting that bike, and then kept that Kawasaki until we were getting ready to move, and I sold it when we moved back to Nebraska then, and didn't have a bike for a long time until my kids were probably my older boys were early teenagers. Elijah was about 2 or 3, I think, and Whoa, my mic's moving all over the place. So he had that. I had that bike. The bike was a Yamaha or Suzuki ZR-07x. I'll look when I get back. And had that bike for a couple of years. Didn't ride it that much because now that we live in Nebraska, a cruiser bike is a lot better than a sport type bike for riding. So I didn't ride that much. But so then I started looking, sold that bike to my son, started looking at some bikes, and found this Harley Sportster when we went to a pawn shop. I was right about the right price. The bike only had about 7,000 miles on it. Actually, it had less than that. I think it only had about 6,000, under 6,000, like 5,700, and was a decent price. And then there also was a Honda VTX1300 that had saddlebags. So I wound up getting the Honda VTX, and my wife surprised me with this bike for my birthday that year. This was the end of 2 riding seasons ago, so it was in October. And I've just loved riding this bike ever since she got it for me. So that's kind of my riding history. And that, I think, is going to sum up this first ride. We'll see how well it does on the sound and how well it looks. I got a feeling I'm going to remount my camera that's up there on the side, remount it down lower. And then it'll look better, I think, but we'll see how this does. Hope you enjoyed this, and till next time, keep sunny side up, rubber side down. Goodbye.